15 minutes?
45 minutes.
Yeah.
45 minutes?
I just noticed that a couple of these goals seem to be in conflict. I mean, we want to have cultural sensitivity towards astronauts from different backgrounds, but at the same time, there's this tendency among people in mission control to be able to want to be able to monitor human factors as though they are mechanical factors, right? You want to have a perception of what's going on in the spacecraft at all times, kind of, in order to ensure that people aren't going nuts. But it may become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you don't give people that privacy, right? If you have monitors on constantly, cameras looking over the shoulder of the group, that might in and of itself drive someone crazy. I know it will drive me crazy. So how do we prioritize between those situations when we're building a single space station which is going to house people from all over the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important. I think that to get a proper psychological analysis of the situation, you don't have to look at how people are behaving 24 hours a day in a spacecraft. There's a lot of processes where you can look at a two-way conversation and the facial expressions, and you can break it down millisecond by millisecond, and get a lot of information out about that actually can predict your crew cohesion, how well you get along with other people, and stuff that predicts your relationship down the road. So for instance, this isn't really done with astronauts, but it's done with married couples. They can put a couple in a room, have a conversation for 15 minutes that's videotaped, and they tell them to talk about something that is currently in conflict with their relationship. They videotape both people, okay, and they break it down millisecond by millisecond and evaluate their facial expressions. So for instance, eye rolling, okay, is a sign of contempt. Okay? And if you have eye rolling in that kind of conversation, it has a predictive, it can predict their divorce at about a 60 to 70% rate 20 years down the road. So they have things like that where they can micro-time a conversation between two people and look at the crew cohesion. So you can just take a quick snapshot of the two astronauts working together. How are they working together? Are they being friendly, or are they doing something like eye rolling, or are they grimacing, that kind of stuff, and say, okay, there's a definite problem here. So you don't need to be like Big Brother watching them at all times, just a quick snapshot from each day might do.
Right. So would it be easy then to form kind of a contract or a protocol to say, okay, only dinner will be filmed?
Yeah, you could definitely do something like that, or because you want to have that privacy, right? Especially with the American astronauts, who like to have a lot of privacy on orbit. So you could say, this common area is filmed, but your private quarters aren't filmed. There could be situations like that might have the optimum.
Or is it possible for someone to, like an external observer, say another astronaut who's not on orbit, or a psychologist, to kind of video conference in for dinner, right? Or whatever meal or common activity you have.
Yeah. I mean, you might be able to get some data from the psychiatrist talking to the astronaut for their 10 minutes every 2 weeks, right? Seeing how they're doing. Also, you're going to be doing a lot of like questionnaires and surveys, right? If you look at stuff I showed you on monitoring, there's like 10 different things they want to monitor, and each one has questionnaires. So you imagine you're doing questionnaires like half an hour a day about how you feel, right? It's got to be pretty monotonous over time.
Same thing. My thumb's tired.
Yeah.
But you definitely can't do video conferencing on partners because of the time.
Yeah, you can't do two-way communication. Another interesting thing from the leadership perspective is a lot of so you have to between task functions of leadership, where you're like, hey, you gotta get this task done, here's the order of what to do, you do this, we're gonna do this together, type of thing. And then you have the relationship part of leadership. So maintaining the relationships, how you're feeling, how you're doing, building those kind of crew cohesion, crew social cohesion, as well as doing task cohesion. So the leader you want to send on a mission will be able to do both and switch easily between different types of things, right? We're doing something right now, we're putting something together, let's get it done, and then later on checking with people, how you doing, that type of stuff. Other questions?
What do you think about Mars 500?
So I was reading a bit about the effect of having multi-gendered crews, right? So for instance, Mars 500 is a single gender group. It's all men. And they've shown that crews tend to do a lot better when they're multi-gendered because women in the crew tend to fulfill a different role, and that role being some of the relationship maintenance. So unless you have a male leader who's really good at relationship maintenance, you're going to want some women there who can take over some of those roles. And that's not a stereotype. That's a psychological phenomenon.
No man
where the women tend to help the crew cohesion along.
Yeah, no man wants to moderate a debate between two other men. That's less fun than being on one side.
But it's interesting that how women will fall into that kind of interaction in a small group environment.
All right, aren't they also from very different national backgrounds? The Mars 500 crew?
Yeah, yeah. So we talked about the effects of heterogeneity, right?
Yeah.
Having crews of different languages. Certainly the Mars 500, they have a couple different languages in there, right?
Yeah, but I think they all overlap. They all speak
They have a common language, right?
English and
But if you're speaking your second language on a 500-day rotation, that can cause a lot of miscommunication and also probably some social isolation. Having crews of different cultures as well makes problems. If you put a bunch of engineering types up there and they're all from the same background, that's how they have less amount of problems. At least none of the problems with that. But when you start doing international stuff, then you get into some difficult psychological phenomena. Okay, thanks.